Joining us now from Yahoo. You can follow him on Yahoo. Forde, national college football columnist, Pat Forde on the Rich Eisen Show. Pat, Andrew Siciliano, how are you, sir?
Doing great, Andrew. How about yourself?
We're doing well. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you caught any of the conversation we had there before the break about the Big Ten Friday night thing. We'll get to the Alabama-LSU game coming up in a second. Curious your thoughts. Friday night football, is it too much? Or, I mean, 2 games, 3 games last night. Is it too much, if we want to call them student athletes, to make these kids play all these midweek games?
It is a problem. There's no doubt about it. It completely flies in the face of all of the talk about, wanting to make sure these guys have a chance to be successful students. The teams that played last night, Colorado, UCLA, I'm sure did not go to class on Thursday or Friday.
Mm-hmm.
They flew out there Thursday. They probably did a walkthrough at the stadium. So you're missing 2 days of class there for that game. If it's a Thursday night game, you're leaving on a Wednesday. You're playing on a Thursday. You get back at, who knows what time in the morning on Friday. Do you feel like going to class then? So there's a lot of stuff a lot of class that gets missed. And yes, if the Big Ten is going to go that direction, it's going to be something they're going to have to deal with. And as you mentioned, they're going to have to be able to get everybody on board with it, because the rest of the league is going to get tired of having Michigan and Penn State saying, no, you guys take care of this. We're too good for that.
And I think the other thing, too, Pat, is that, and I'm not trying to be the NFL sycophant here, but if any game is going up against an NFL game on a Thursday, don't you want your product to have, if you're going to go out of the way to make them play during the week, a better stage?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously you're taking on the gorilla there, no doubt about it. And, I mean, hey, quite frankly, the Thursday night games have not been very good in the NFL. But still, people will probably more likely to watch them over a college game, unless it's a really big-time college game, and there usually are not many of those on Thursday nights. So, yeah, it's all this is all a programming dance. It's all trying to get media rights revenue, and the more television companies are forking over, the more they want control of the schedule, and they want to move those games around and see what they can do on a Friday night or whatever. And that's what happens when you basically turn your athletic department over into a media rights company.
Exactly.
And so you have to play that game. That's kind of the nature of the beast.
25 before the hour. This is Pat Forde from Yahoo, college football writer. I'm Andrew Siciliano, sitting in for Rich Eisen. Pat, we have the college rankings out. We got Bama, Clemson, Michigan, A&M, and then Washington at number 5 at 8-0, with A&M with a loss sitting at number 4. Your thoughts?
Don't like it, Andrew. I think it smacks of the committee just being cute and realizing these rankings really don't matter. So let's throw a plot twist out there.
Then why are we doing them?
Well, we shouldn't. I don't think we should. I think it's stupid. I've said that from the beginning. I think it basically creates more headaches for the committee, because they have to answer for themselves every single week. And when they change their minds, people want to know why. And these things, they don't matter, but they figured out, ESPN figured out, hey, you know what? People will watch this, and people will talk about the playoff, and that's what they wanted, so that's what they get. But I don't think it serves the committee or the football fans very well to have it.
That argument that people will talk about it, Pat, that drives me up a wall. Like with preseason rankings, which I know we all agree are beyond worthless. And I think they can actually be destructive at times, because you put teams that haven't earned it at the top, and then they beat a bunch of nobodies and they stay at the top. But when people say, well, we're talking about it, isn't there value there? Pat, that suggests that if we didn't have rankings, we wouldn't be talking about college football, which is idiotic.
Of course it is. Yeah. I think we're going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. But you hear people saying that. I know the NCAA basketball committee was looking at what happened with the playoff. They're like, well, people are talking about those rankings. And they're thinking maybe we should have people talking about our our tournament. It's a very silly mindset, but it does exist out there.
Talking about rankings does not drive people to the television. It may make people pick up the phone to call this show or their favorite sports talk radio show or wherever they're calling, but it's not going to produce a rating. That's just my humble opinion. Pat Forde's here. Pat, what do you think of the Baker Mayfield performance last night in terms of the Heisman race?
I mean, he's played very well. He and Dede Westbrook have now gotten this just sensational combination going there. I think he's got a long way to go from a Heisman perspective. You know, I think that there's several people lined up in front of him. I mean, big stats against Iowa State are not necessarily going to dazzle anybody, especially with the 2 losses on the resume there. You know, I think Lamar Jackson's head of the class. I think there's a couple defensive guys that need to be in the argument. Jabrill Peppers from Michigan and Jonathan Allen from Alabama. Jake Browning from Washington, Deshaun Watson from Clemson. And then here could be an intriguing twist, Andrew. If Leonard Fournette has a really good game Saturday against Alabama and LSU finally beats Alabama, could he get in the Heisman race while missing 3 or 4 games with injury? Could you play 8 games and still win the Heisman? I think that'll be something people will consider if he has a big game, which is easier said than done.
Right. Well, let's get to that. Do they beat Alabama? Is this Leonard Fournette's and LSU's statement this weekend, Pat?
I don't see that happening, but it's intriguing. I mean, there's so many elements that go into this. You got Ed Orgeron, America's interim coach, trying to make some argument for why he should get the job full time. I don't think he has any argument unless he wins this game and they finally beat nemesis Nick Saban. But Alabama, boy, they are awfully good. I've seen them in person twice against USC and against Texas A&M, and the defensive front 7 is unbelievable. I will say, if Leonard Fournette has a good game against that defense, then that's very, very impressive.
Well,
Last year, they just ate him alive. He had 19 carries for 31 yards, so it's going to be tough.
Sorry to cut you off there. 2 things. He could get the Heisman, or if they have that big game. Does Orgeron get the job, Pat, with a win?
They have to at least talk about it and think about it, I mean, I don't think that's been the mindset, but the things he's got going for him, obviously he will have beaten Nick Saban, which Les Miles couldn't do for the last 5 years. He's a Louisiana guy. He's a born and bred Cajun. He's got a ton of local support. I never think those are good reasons necessarily to hire coaches. The local ties don't necessarily mean you're a good coach. But if you win this game, if you can go undefeated as the interim coach, that would change the tenor of the whole discussion, I think, significantly.
Pat Forde from YAHOO. Want to back up for a second here, Pat. You mentioned Jabrill Peppers. The guy's fantastic. I don't care which side of the ball. You can't take your eyes off him when he's on the field. Does he have a legit shot at the Heisman?
I think if they go undefeated and he keeps making productive plays on both sides of the ball, especially offensively, since that's where people gravitate in terms of statistics, then I think he does have a shot. If they can get him, break a couple more special teams plays, and then you're looking at kind of the Charles Woodson situation from a long time ago, but 20 years ago. But he needs to be productive in all facets, and they probably need to be undefeated. But both of those things could happen.
Because I know I was watching the Louisville game last week, and when Lamar Jackson throws a touchdown in Charlottesville, a group of people I'm with all went, Heisman, it's over.
Right now, I would say he's by far the leader. I mean, I think that he is the best player. He's having a fantastic year, and he's helped take that program to another level. But they don't have a lot of marquee games left. And if it's all of a sudden Leonard Fournette's showing out against Alabama, or Jabrill Peppers is playing great against Ohio State, those are stages that Lamar Jackson doesn't have left on his schedule, and I think voters may tend to look around a little bit more as the season goes along. But as of right now, if I had to send in the ballot, it would be Lamar Jackson without a doubt.
Pat Forde, one last thing here. Les Miles, 2017. He is, I don't know, where? What's your best educated guess?
Boy, I mean, he's going to be somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Can he get into the Power 5, I guess, would be the question. Purdue's sitting out there. There's been a lot of different names and a lot of different kind of ebbs and flows to the buzz for that. I don't think they necessarily know for sure what they can get and what they want to do, because I think a lot of the job candidates want to see what else is going to open. Does Bill Snyder retire at Kansas State? If Tom Herman leaves Houston, Houston's an opening. There's a lot of different possibilities for Les, I think, out there. But I anticipate he will be somewhere. I just don't know where.
And when you say, can he get into the Power 5, you're not suggesting that schools may not want him. You're suggesting that the opening may not be right for him to get into the Power 5.
Yeah, some of both, I think.
Really?
I mean, I think there's some schools that look at Les and say, man, if that's all he could do in terms of, especially offensively, with that much talent, we got to sell tickets here. He's not going to sell tickets. That there's some belief that Les underachieved with superior talent, and you put him in someplace else with less talent, and it really wouldn't work out. So, yeah, I think there's a little bit of that in some areas that some people say, I wouldn't necessarily hire him for my job.
You think it's a fair assessment?
I don't know. I don't know. I think he honestly, and I think getting fired might be the reality check he needed to modernize his offense. Say we got to do things a little bit differently. And if you do that, then I think he could win anywhere, because I do think he can recruit, and I do think he can lead, and I think he's, obviously he's won a heck of a lot of games and proven a lot. So if he modernizes the offense, then I think he absolutely will be an attractive candidate in a lot of places.
In other words, make it a video game.
Not quite that far. You don't have to be Texas Tech.
Right.
But you got to score some. You got to be able to throw the forward pass with some acumen. How about that?
I've heard of such things, the forward pass. It's not overrated at all. Nor is Pat Forde. You can follow him at Yahoo Forde, the national columnist, college football on Yahoo. He has his weekly column. He also has a weekly show on Yahoo Sports Radio with Dan Wetzel, who actually I ran into last week on the streets of Cleveland before Game 1 of the World Series. Pat, great to have you on, man. Enjoy the games this weekend.
All right, thanks, Andrew.
You got it. Pat Forde.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.